Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the new Mac M1. And when I say new, it's been out for about 2 months now. And in this video, I'm going to give you my real world review after using this for 6 weeks. So I've owned my Mac Mini, my first ever Mac, mind you, for 6 weeks now. And what I thought I would do is break down the pros, the cons, and give you my overall thoughts on this as a real world user creating video and creating audio and using the Mac Mini M1 for live streaming, which is what I'm doing right now. If it's your first time here, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live today. My goal here is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And of course, along with music comes video and live streaming and other things, hence why I needed a new computer. My PC was more than 10 years old. It was an old, aging Core i5 Intel chip. Yeah, it had plenty of RAM, but I would do some things and just go, I need a new computer. And just at that time, Apple jumped in and said, hey, we've got a new computer. Why don't you try one of ours? And I said, sure, let's do it. So that's where we're at here. So in this video, I'm going to give you my quick overview, my 5-minute breakdown. I'm then going to go into some detail about the pros and cons, and we're going to finish with some Q&A. So if you do have questions, you're here live on Facebook or YouTube, you got questions about the Mac M1, then you can ask those, and I will give you an honest view, an overview of my opinion of what's been going on. So let's jump in here. Let's give you the scenario. So should you buy a Mac M1? Well, let's give the background. So the Mac M1 is a new system on a chip arrangement. So as opposed to previous Macs where they've been Intel based, this is Apple's new silicon. This is their brand new system on a chip. So it means that your CPU, GPU, and memory are all integrated onto one chip. It does mean that you can't then upgrade your system at all. So I went for the Mac Mini, the absolute base level Mac Mini. It's got 8 CPU cores, 8 GPU cores. It's got a 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, which didn't seem like much at the time. And we'll talk about how that's worked out for me throughout the video here today. But the key thing to keep in mind here is that these are their first generation, but they're kind of not. So yes, it's the first Mac M1, hence why it's called the M1, but it's kind of the A15. So Apple have been developing these system on a chips for the iPhone and the iPad for a really long time. So they're right up to, I mean, this is the iPhone 10, 10s. So this is the A12 chip, but they're up to the A14 chip in the most recent stuff. So if you're thinking about this going, hey, I don't want to buy Generation 1 hardware, I get it, but it's kind of Generation 15, yeah? So we were promised with the Mac M1 that it would be super fast, that it would be super integrated. New Mac Big Sur, which you can see over here, well, nearly. I've lost my. See, I'm still getting used to the Mac and how to use it. Mac Big Sur runs really slick. It runs really smooth. And my experience has been it's about 50-50. I'm going to tell you. I'm still using it, so that should tell you the verdict that I do like it and I do find that I'm getting some value out of it. But there's been some headaches and there's been some teething problems along the way, which is what we'll talk about in this video. But should you buy one, here's the deal. If you already own a Mac and it's working for you and all of your apps are working and all of your hardware is working and everything is working, there's no rush. You don't need to go out and rush out and buy one. If you're using a PC and you've always wanted to try a Mac, the Mac M1 gives you a good gateway. The fact that it's only starts at $699 US is pretty good. I paid $1,099 for this one, for the Mac Mini M1 here in Australia, and that it's probably the best $1,000 I could have invested into hardware for the sorts of things I'm doing. So yes, it's worth exploring and worth checking out. If you're not in a huge hurry, and like I say, if it ain't broke, then maybe you sit back and you wait and you go, okay, what about the M2? When's that coming out? Because there will be newer and better Macs in the future. This is definitely the first run around. Like I said, it's not first gen hardware, but it's the first time that they've actually been using this. Let's have a quick sip of coffee, and then I'm going to jump into the pros and cons. And why don't we start with? Let's start with the. Should we start on the positive or the negative? Let's start with the pros. So let's go into all of the reasons that I've been really enjoying using the Mac M1. So for me, I do this, right? I do live streaming and I have my face cam here. I'm using my Logitech C922 webcam. And when I do different shows, I need to play back audio, I need to play back video. Tell you what, that has been amazing. So the Mac M1 has really crushed it when it comes to performance for actual playback of audio and video. So if we come in here, what I can do, I've got my two screens here. I can come in and search for one of my videos here. Let's say new beginning, and we'll bring this one up here. Like everything just is snappy and happens fast. There we go. We can go to full screen video, and it just eats it up, yeah? And I know that, that with just that is not really much there, but anything that I play here, even stuff that has full motion video, it's just working. And I think this is the system on a chip, the integration of everything with the graphics and the CPU and the memory, even though we've only got 8 gigabytes of RAM, it just means that everything just works. And it is so much snappier than any other computer that I've ever used in terms of if you're a live streamer or if you're a music creator or a video editor, you load up the app and you're just away. It's got out of the way of all of my production, and that's the one thing that I really hoped that I would get with this because it's what I needed. I'm too old. I'm at the age now where I don't like to tweak with things. I don't like to mess with things. I don't want to get under the hood. I don't want to overclock anything. I don't want to mess around. I just want to turn it on, do a thing, it work, and then I turn it off and move on with my life. So in terms of that, really good. Been pretty darn happy with it. And as Tom Rochelle here says, the streams have been looking and sounding extra fantastic since using the Mac. Yeah, if you compare my streams now to the ones I was doing with PC, especially where I'm doing video playback and the like, there's no comparison. It's been so much slicker and so much better quality. Multitasking has been really good on the Mac as well. So I'm able to run multiple things and do all the things that I need to do. If you've been watching some of the more recent shows, I've been able to come in here and throw GarageBand here, the Mac version of GarageBand here. Play along with that. I don't have it set up here, but I can easily use Reflector 3. Let's just do it really quickly. So I can come in here, I can load up. I've got Reflector 3 running there, as you can see, which is the app that I use to mirror my iPad or my iPhone over onto the screen. So if we bring this one up, and I'll just tap on my iPad here, and within a case of, about 3 or 4 seconds, it's come here. It wants my Face ID because I was blocking it with my big melon, and I've got it on the opposite screen today. But yeah, I can bring my iPad straight in here, so I can be doing comparisons. I've got GarageBand on the iPad, I've got GarageBand on the Mac here, I've got a web browser window here. All of it can be happening at once. In terms of multitasking and not running out of memory or processing power or grinding to a halt, very few beach balls, very few spinning issues, very few buffering issues. Everything's just snappy and it just goes. And I've just realized I've never actually plugged the Mac Mini into my network. So it's been running on Wi-Fi this whole time. I should, and I will, actually get it plugged into my router directly. I've just been lazy. And because it's worked and I haven't had any issues, touch wood, I've just kept going. So yeah, in terms of that, going really well. The next one on the list here, this is weird and a bit different, but because I do a lot of YouTube stuff, it's really important for me to be able to do things quickly. And what I've found here is that with the Mac, I've been able to actually use a lot of my shortcuts. So if I came in here, say to this one, and I wanted to add a comment, say this is replying to a comment, I can do things like put PJ there, and it makes my entire name, SLT, Studio Live Today. This has brought across all of my keyboard shortcuts that I use on my iPhone and iPad. So the integration between iOS and macOS is pretty darn good. all of the stuff that I had, and that I had, don't put that too close to my microphone, it made a weird noise. All of the integration and all of the stuff that I had set up on my iPhone and iPad has kind of just organically come across. And I know that shouldn't sound amazing. You're like, yeah, Pete, that's how things work. But for me, it's been a real time saver. And again, like I say, when I'm doing something like this, and all of the things like if I put SLT USB here, it will go to my website about USB. If I got just SLTC, it's going to go straight to studiolivetoday.com. So little things like that just mean that when I make a change here on the Mac, it replicates over to the iPad and the iPhone and vice versa. It just makes it a lot simpler because when I was on the PC, it wasn't doing that, right? Alrighty. Next thing on my list here, iCloud integration. Now, this has been a big one for me because I do a lot of creating in Apple apps, especially in GarageBand, and especially in things like Audio Share and just moving files around. The fact, and I actually pay for an upgraded storage capacity within iCloud. So I've got 2 terabytes. Is that right? I've got a lot of storage on iCloud Drive, and it just means it makes things very easy because if I've got a bunch of files, whether it's video files or audio files or whatever, and I want to make sure I have them available on my phone. In the past, if I was on my PC, it would be a bit more of a clunky effort. I'd have to go into the iCloud Drive and I'd have to upload it. And yeah, look, I did have folder sync and things going on the PC. It just never worked quite as well as I wanted to. But on the Mac and on iOS, it's really, really simple. All I need to do is just dump it into my iCloud Drive folder and then pick up my phone and go for it. So if I'm doing things like, I did something recently where I wanted to export a project from the Mac. So if we go here, GarageBand on the Mac, I was able to grab my GarageBand project here on the Mac and then do a share here, export a project as a GarageBand iOS project, save it to my iCloud Drive, and then picked up my phone and walked out the door. I could then bring up the project, add a few things in there, and here's the cool thing. When I came back and reopened it here on the Mac, it said, hey, it looks like you've added some stuff on GarageBand iOS. Would you like to bring in those tracks? And I went, yeah, I would. And it just did it. So it just integrated in, and that's what was cool. It worked. Don't worry, I will get to the cons. If you want to hear the dirt, we'll be getting to that in about 5 minutes. Next cool thing has been this GarageBand on Mac. So getting familiar with GarageBand on Mac has been a lot of fun. I've seen people using it for a long time. I've been jealous of some of the different options that folks have in here with automation of different things, with master tracks, with arrangement tracks, and now I get to try it out. Now, I haven't swapped. Don't worry. People have got concern. They're like, Pete, are you going to abandon us? Are you going to throw away your iPhone and iPad and just use the Mac? No. Reason being, especially because I didn't go the MacBook, I went the Mac Mini. I don't want to be just here, right? Excuse me. I don't want to be just stuck on this desk. The whole reason I like mobile creating is I can move around and do it from wherever I want to. I can go to the park. I can go on a walk. I can go and sit in a cafe, and I can still be creating. So I still love iOS, but having the additional option of even GarageBand. I haven't even tried Logic yet. People have said, when are you going to try Logic? I'm like, I haven't got my handle on GarageBand yet. GarageBand's cool enough, but I will be trying Logic, and we will look into that in the future. Excuse me a moment. Sorry, I do these shows in the morning, my time, and sometimes my voice has forgotten how to work at this early hour. Tom Rochelle says 2 terabytes is the maximum. I sprung for that. Very handy to share between devices. Yeah, so you do pay. I think it's $14.99 a month I pay. I'm about to upgrade when Apple get their Apple One together, which has things like music and TV and storage all together. I'll probably change over to that because that seems like a better value. But yeah, I do pay $15 Australian. I think it's $10 US a month to get 2 terabytes of storage. And it just does make things a lot simpler for you. What else do I like? Multiple audio devices. So at the moment, I've got a Scarlett 2i2 from Focusrite audio interface set up here. I've also got my mixer, which is what you're hearing me through now. Now, we'll jump into the cons in a minute, but I'm unable to use my Zoom LiveTrack L8 mixer. I'm on my old Samson MixPad, which is a simpler mixer that has just a standard USB interface because we don't have a driver for the Zoom yet. More on that in a moment. But the ability to have multiple audio devices and to be able to just come in here and switch between them. So you can see at the top here, these are all the different audio devices that I can choose from, and I can flick between them as much as I want. And what you heard before is the audio output here in GarageBand is coming out of my mixer so that you can hear it when I do that. But you'll notice down here, the audio input is actually my Scarlett 2i2. So that's super useful. And that's something that you can do on a PC. You can't do in iOS. You can only have one audio device in iOS at a time. But the way that Apple and that Mac Big Sur, the new version of Mac, handles audio, even though I had a few teething problems, mostly due to drivers, is actually really intuitive and really easy. And it gives me options to be able to have different input devices, different output devices, and just aggregate those together and make sure that things are running smoothly. So kudos to Apple for your simple sound driving devices. All righty, we'll move on. A question from Lady Rodeline, which mixer would you recommend? So the jury's out. If you want a pure mixer, I don't own one right now, but what I recommend is the Yamaha MG series. So that's probably what I'll get longer term is an Yamaha MG12 or MG20, one of the Yamaha mixers, because they have the Yamaha D-Pres that I have in my Steinberg interfaces, and they just seem to have the right balance of features. So that would be my view on that one. Joey Helpish, who also streams using his Mac M1, says the dual input is a game changer for streaming and recording songs at the same time. My favorite part of my new Mac. So there you go. You've heard it from two folks now, from myself and from Joey Helpish, that being able to do that and have those multiple inputs and outputs and just say, I want my stream to have these ones, but I want my device, I want my GarageBand to have these ones. It really, really does help out. Let's move on. There you go. And as Jade says, the MG10 is what Jade uses for Mac, PC, and iPad is what she uses to stream. So and again, I'm on the Samsung Mixpad because I have one. My Zoom LiveTrack L8 I like, but I don't love, and I'll determine whether that goes and gets sold to someone and goes to a good home. It's like rehoming a dog. See whether that goes to a new home. And then maybe I go with the Yamaha mixer or maybe something like the Rodecaster. We'll find out. Anyway, let's finish off on these pros. So I talked about it very briefly there, but one of the coolest things, and I know this is pretty new to Mac, and it's available on Mac Big Sur anyway, but on the M1 in particular, it's super handy, and that is this little bar up the top here. So the ability to have everything that you're using just right up here, so your search, your control center, your do not disturb settings, everything else, and even apps that you're running here. So there I've got my Reflector app there that's running here, and you can see that I've got Reflector here. That was a screenshot from my previous video, and look at that smoothness. I know. I get excited about this because, again, if you watch me on the PC, it was like about 2 frames a second. But when you see that, look, that's moving up and down with about not even half a second lag and at about 30 frames a second. So I can actually come in here and demonstrate things and show you what I'm doing here on the iPad without any problems. Anyway, that wasn't what I was talking about, but that is a good thing. But yeah, you can see here that if you tap on the control center, we'll make that go away. I'm still learning how to actually, whoa, what did I do there? I went to full screen mode. Okay, let's get out of that. We'll talk about this in a moment, but getting used to how to use all these things, and it's been a challenge. But the ability to have your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, AirDrop up there, your display settings, which have been very important for me to have for reasons we'll talk about in a moment, and your sound settings right at the top there, everything is just in the right place. And even like your controls here for audio. There you go. It's all there and it all works and allows you to access things and fix things. And even things like my webcam here, I can come in here and here's a weird thing. I have to say hide and then show to bring it up. But there you go. There's this webcam app that I'm using here, and I can adjust my webcam on the fly if I need to. So all of those things, super duper handy. The final thing that I really like, and look, there's more things, but these are the main things, is the ability to find things. So the Spotlight search. So I can just use, in my case, I'm using a Windows keyboard, by the way. You can use a Windows keyboard or a Mac keyboard. I'm still on a Windows keyboard. So I hit Windows space. I think it's the Command space or the Apple key. I don't know. Whatever that is. And you get the Spotlight search here. So if I'm trying to find something, I'm just trying to find For the Birds. There you go. So it searches here. It's got all the Safari things, but then look over here. It's got all the different GarageBand projects that I've got on my thing, on my iCloud drive. So I can instantly find what I'm looking for there. And I can just come in here and look, it gives you a preview. It says, yep, look, this is a GarageBand project. And then you can open it directly from here. So having this ability to just at any moment, just go boom. What do I need? Oh, where's my reflector? You just type it in there and it brings it up, and then you hit it and then it loads up the app. It's really simple. And yes, you know, the PC has its search function, it has its start menu, and it has a lot of things that I'm very used to. But the integration, the ability to just find things and do things easily has been a good thing with the Mac. So there you go. There are my pros, and we'll jump into the cons in a moment. We've got folks asking some basic questions, which I didn't really give the full details. I think I gave a little mini version at the start. But the Mac that I'm using is the Mac Mini M1. It's $699 US. It cost me $1,099 here in Australia, and it is the 8GB of RAM model with 256GB of storage. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about because let's go negative. Let's dive in, shall we, to the cons. What are the cons here in GarageBand? I was going to say with the Mac M1. So con number one has been around the keyboard. So it has been a bit of a pain getting used to a different keyboard. So I'm using my PC keyboard here. And originally I tried to use a Bluetooth keyboard. The Bluetooth connectivity of the new M1s in Big Sur was clunky at best. I know Jade had a bunch of issues originally setting up with a Bluetooth keyboard. So I abandoned the Bluetooth. I've gone with a USB keyboard, but I must admit that unlike the PC that just crushes it, sometimes using this USB keyboard, there's a bit of lag and delay. It's almost like it doesn't quite connect. And I'm not sure if it's just because I have gone with a PC keyboard and it's punishing me for that. But when I'm using my keyboard and mouse, sometimes I'll go and start using it. I mean, right now, if we come over here, the mouse is super smooth. So the mouse is just working fine. It's doing its thing here. But occasionally I'll come in, I'll start typing and... yeah, see, it's proving me wrong right now because it's working perfectly. So, and that's the thing. Things have improved, as we'll talk about in a moment. But the keyboard has been a little bit clunky for me. Right, now let's talk about the dual monitor setup that I have here. So, the Mac Mini only has one output. It has one HDMI output, and that is going to one of the screens I have here. So I have two screens. I have one screen over here, one screen here. Two Asus 16:9 24-inch monitors here. And that's what I use for my live streaming setup. It's so that I can have my streaming software set up over here and any of my notes. And up here, I can have what you're looking at right now. I can have my iPad there. I can have my GarageBand. I can have another window here, which I can't find. There you go. I can have a window here. So I can have everything sitting up here. And here was the problem. With the first version of Big Sur, which was, I don't remember the version number now. I should have looked that up in advance. The first version, before they updated it, it had the worst drivers and the worst setup here, because what would happen is every time I plugged in, every time I would turn on, I would have to come in here to display, I would have to go to my display preferences, and I would have to actually change the arrangement. It would always put these the wrong way around, and I would have to come in here to display and change the refresh rate. If I didn't do that, it would be flickery, it would just basically not function. So that was a big fat pain in the ass. Thankfully, it was a bug, and in the Mac Big Sur version 0.1, whatever it is, 11.1, they fixed it. So it is now fixed, and since then, I've had no issues. But for the first month of using this new Mac, every single time I woke it up, turned it on, it would go through this, and I would have to spend the first minute changing the display settings. It got super frustrating. Thankfully, again, it got fixed and is now all good. Now I can't work out how to get rid of this. I've lost the other window. Again, no, I don't know. I don't know where that has gone. Is it down under here? No. Are you under here? This is good, because this is my next thing. Is I can't find my way around. I don't navigate well with the Mac even yet, because you can see here that I can like Alt Tab, but the other system preferences one here, the one I can actually close with an X, isn't there. And I find the same with Chrome, is that I go to Chrome here, yeah. I have another Chrome window open. It's down here, and I can click it there and bring it up right. But unless it's already open, it won't go to there. So I minimize it. I want it out of the way, and then I want to bring it back. Instead of being able to Alt-Tab like I can on Windows and bring it back up, it just simply won't come back. Once it's gone down here, it seems to. Someone can tell me if I'm missing something really obvious, but it seems to require a mouse click, which I'm not all about. I want keyboard shortcuts. If I want to bring something back up, I want a mouse click. I don't want a mouse click. I want to be able to just tab through it and find it here. And I think that I've worked out, maybe it's the same. Maybe I need to do this thing up here, System Preferences. Yeah, so this is a good thing to show you. I really dislike the fact that when I close an app, it doesn't go away. Oh, there it is. Look, it came back. We got rid of it. But I really don't like the fact that, say I'm here in, again, GarageBand. Will this work? Let's test this out. No. See, look at this. I want to go to GarageBand. Boom. No, it's not there until I click it and bring it back up. There's got to be a setting that I'm missing that I can just change that. But anyway, I really dislike that pressing X, A, it's in the top left, not the top right, so that's taking a while to get used to, and B, when you close something, it doesn't go away. To actually properly close it, you've got to go to a menu and then click quit. And that's the only way to actually completely get rid of something. And that's A, taken me 6 weeks and I'm still not used to it. And B, I just don't want that functionality. I want X to be goodbye. I want to go, goodbye, Chrome tab. I don't want you anymore, X. But it doesn't go away. It's still there. It's still there in the background down here. No, it's not even that one. That's my screen share. Okay, so that one that's a bad example. It has gone away, but it hasn't closed the app. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I'm telling you, because if you're considering buying a Mac and you've never used one or you haven't used one much, these are probably the things that will frustrate you like they have me. Alrighty. Yeah, and we've got some good tips. So Philip's saying Command Q is my friend. Cool. Well, I'll take that on notice. So let's give it a quick try, shall we? And again, I'll have to Command Q will have to be Windows Q, I'm assuming, on my Windows keyboard. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe I haven't completely let go. The fact that I'm still using a Windows keyboard kind of tells you something. So let's try Command Q. Okay, cool. There you go. See, I've just learned something. I've learned a cool new keyboard shortcut. All right, let's continue with the cons. So I've talked about video. The webcam, if you're using the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air, apparently the webcam is still pretty dodgy. It's 720p. They haven't upgraded that in years. I would recommend what I'm doing here now. So I'm using the Logitech C922. Now, when I first got the Logitech, and it's probably, when I first sort of started using it, it's probably to do with those same issues I was having with the display drivers, but I had no end of issues installing the Logitech software and getting it running, to the point where eventually I just gave up and I bought this webcam settings app. And again, maybe someone can help me out here. So it's not showing it here. I can't have show webcam settings panel. It's only got hide it. It's not actually there. So I have to go hide and then show to bring it back. And I don't know what that is. Maybe again, it's just maybe I just need to come down here and click it. But again, once it's down there, I can't Alt Tab to it. It's just missing. It's just down here. And I got to do that. And even when I come up here just to show it, if it's already down here and I want to show it, it just says hide. So anyway, that's only a small thing. But I had to get this secondary software. So unlike the PC where I was able to just really easily install the Logitech software where you're able to control it, it seemed that unless I bought this $12.99 app called Webcam Settings, I couldn't set my webcam at all. And that's a problem because if you're doing live streaming or Zoom calls or anything like this, then that's going to cause problems. So yeah, it's just another annoying thing that when I first started setting this up, I couldn't get my webcam set up properly. And it took me a couple of days really to get the right settings dialed in. And it took a $12.99 app to do it. And thank you to Patrick Baird, who put me on to Patrick from the GarageBand Guide, who's a champion. He put me on to that. The audio drivers. So this is probably a big thing. So if you're going to listen to anything, listen to this. And that is that the audio drivers for my Zoom Live Track, and I'm sure for a lot of, if you have got specialist hardware, so if you've got something that requires a specific driver, chances are there isn't a Mac M1 or a Mac Big Sur driver for it yet. Now, it may work with older drivers, but again, if it's a complicated piece of kit like my Zoom Live Track L8 that I'm using here, or not using right now, as the case may be, because it doesn't work, then you're going to be SOL, which as we know is sort of out of luck. So keep that in mind that if you're using any sort of custom gear and you're using something that's going to be more complicated, then it may not work, as has been the case for me. Let's talk about USB ports, shall we? So we have on the Mac Mini 2 USB ports and 2 Thunderbolt ports or USB 3 ports. Now, I didn't think this would be a big problem until I started working out all the different things I wanted to plug in. So plugged into this right now, as I mentioned, I have my mixer, I have an audio interface. They're both into USB ports. So if I have those two in, I got nothing left. So what I've had to do is get a powered USB hub so that I can plug in a drive. So I've got an old 5 terabyte spinning drive just so that I can back up files because, again, only 256 gigabytes of storage has meant that sometimes when I'm downloading big files or transferring things around, I've needed to use external storage. But then, of course, I've got my webcam that I need to plug in and then my mouse and keyboard. So you very quickly run out of ports with just those 2 USB and 2 USB 3 ports. Very quickly started running out. So I did need to use a powered USB hub to connect all the other gear. Is it a game changer? Not really. As we mentioned before, I'll bring us over here because you don't need to see all my reminders. There you go. That's a good thing. Another reminder here, another thing is I don't need, and look, again, it's my own fault, but all the things that I get on iOS, you know how I said it was really handy to have them all jump over here? Yeah, except when it's not. Except when I don't want them here. So I know it's tweaking, I know it's settings, but everything just automatically came over. It should have, in my view, it should have said at the very start, what do you want to replicate? Do you want iMessage? I sure don't want iMessage on my Mac. iMessage is on my phone. I don't want, maybe reminders I do want, calendar things maybe, but yeah, it seemed to be an all or nothing thing. And again, I know I can go in and tweak the settings, but it wanted to just integrate me. It didn't want to give me the options when I first did it. And maybe I missed something big there. Anyway, righty. Let's see. Where was I up to? I've lost my train of thought. There we go. So switching between windows, you've already seen my challenges with that. I'm a challenged guy, and it was this. Every time I do that, yeah. I like this. Joey Helpich is talking about this. Every time I try to use it and call Patrick and plays a new U2 album, what is it about that? I like my wife, every time that she does something on her phone and it just plays, it'll play that U2 album because it's the only bit of music she has that's not just, Google Music or Apple Music. So yeah, that U2 album haunts us all to this very day, and I'm sure haunts you too as well. So yeah, switching between windows, I don't love. I wish there was a way that when I had multiple Chrome tabs here that were already open, that it would actually give me them. And again, if you're just coming here and you don't know what I'm talking about with that, if I have a Chrome tab here and I'm switching between apps, it'll do it like that if it's open in the background. But if I don't want it open in the background, I want it down off my desktop and down there, it plonks it down here. But then when I alt tab, I can't get back to it. Even if I go to that Chrome, I have to literally come down here and click it and bring it back. I find that a pain in the butt. Yeah, the keyboard we've talked about, the steep learning curve. Now, this is interesting because I came into the Mac thinking that it would completely hold my hand, right? It would do everything for me and there'd be no troubleshooting, there'd be no problems. That wasn't exactly the case. And again, maybe because I wanted to do more complex thing and I plugged in complex hardware and I've tried to use my Zoom live track and it didn't work, and I had the display setting issues because I wanted 2 monitors and I wanted 2 different sound devices. Like maybe I was just asking it for a little bit more than what most people would. But the thing is, it's not that way. So if you're coming over to Mac, and I'm thinking about this because I'm like, my dad needs a new computer. I'm like, do I suggest that Dad gets a Mac or a PC? And the answer right now is I'm not sure. So I'm going to wait another month and see how we go. Because I think for my dad, it would actually be super simple because he's not going to plug in like multiple audio devices. He's not going to need the level of complexity that I do. So it'll probably be super, super straightforward. But again, and it's probably more the fact that I try to do things a little bit differently, but it has been a lot more challenging than I had thought. So setting up software, installing software, like managing downloads, it's all a bit clunky to the point where unless you're installing it from the App Store, so if you come into the App Store here, it's pretty simple, right? If we find an app, I don't even know what I'm going to find here now. Let's just search for, I'll just search for some sort of Google app. I'll search for Google. So if we went, mail for Gmail, maybe. I'll just try and find something. So yeah, if you just want to get something, you can just come in here and you can hit get, right? And then that will just download, and that's easy, and it's all installed and it's all fine. In fact, yeah, Microsoft 365, I installed that. It was easy. All of my apps are there. I can now just open them. But if it's not in the App Store and you have to install it, I found it way clunkier because I had to install it. I got some package thing. I then had to run it. It then said, to actually put this application in your application list here, I had to like drag it over to somewhere and do something. And again, it's not wrong. It's just different. The difference between just an executable file that you have on a PC where you run it, it installs, it plonks it somewhere on your hard drive, you probably have no idea where, and then it's already there and you just run it. There just seem to be an extra couple of steps here to install on the Mac. And maybe it's to say, hey, you're doing something outside of our ecosystem. We really recommend that you come over and you install things via the actual App Store. Maybe that's what it's telling me by the fact that it was more difficult, but I don't know. For me, it's taken some getting used to. And again, we had plenty of pros, right? These are just the cons. These are my real world scenarios that if you are going to go out and get a Mac, you just need to keep in mind. They're not game changers. I'm still using it. That should tell you enough. That should tell you that the pros far outweigh the cons. But these are those annoying little things that I'll get used to over time, but have taken a while to get used to. All right. Quitting applications we've talked about. That was a pain. And yeah, having to go up here. But now, there you go. Now that I've had my tip, hang on, let's try it. Command Q. Right, there you go. So yeah, again, keyboard shortcuts are going to be my friend once I learn them all. I did have this issue for a while with the dock changing sides when I was over on my, so you can't see me on my left screen, but watch the dock. It's disappeared because every time you go to the bottom of another screen, if we come back here and I drag to the bottom and hold there for about a second, it brings the dock over this side. And I go to my other screen and it brings it over that side. And I found for the first like 3 weeks I was doing live streaming, I kept bringing the dock over here, not knowing how I did it. And then not knowing that all I needed to do to get it back was to just bring my cursor to the bottom here and we were all good, yeah? Oh, what was that? There was a weird pointer on my screen. Yeah, so that's really simple. But again, it was something that frustrated me to start with because I'm like, again, I don't keep comparing it to Windows, but on Windows, I just had my dock over here on the right-hand side of one screen, and my other screen was just pure blank goodness. Again, there's probably a way to say, never move that dock, leave the dock here forever. Plus, I do need to work out how to get my dock over on the right side. I don't like having my dock at the bottom here. I like having it on the right side of my screen because it's taking up too much valuable real estate down here. So that's another thing. I've got a note here. One moment. My apologies. I've got a note here about scrolling. So I've got my mouse here and I'm scrolling down, which means I'm pulling my scroll wheel towards myself, yeah? Because I had to go in and set my mouse to actually do it this way. Because you know what Apple has? They have something called natural scrolling, which is very unnatural to me. Because what that did is to scroll down, you would have to push up on your scroll wheel. And the logic there was it's like a touch screen. But you know what, Apple? You refuse to give us a touch screen on a Mac, so why are you making your trackpads and your mouse wheels like a touch screen? Yes, we're used to touch screens on your touchscreen devices, and that kind of makes sense to scroll that way. That way goes up, that way goes down. But on a mouse wheel, that makes absolutely no sense. Does not make sense to be pulling backwards to go upwards. Down is down, up is up. Never the twain shall be the same. Anyway, that again, it's one setting, and thankfully, because of the spotlight search, I think I came in here and I just went mouse, did I? And came in here and went to mouse, and oh, it wasn't even in here. Yeah, there you go. Scroll direction, natural. And the very fact that it's called natural kind of pisses me off. Because it's the most unnatural thing I think I've ever come across. See, this dude knows. He's just like, oh, I'm so stressed out because Apple call it natural scrolling, right? Anyway, let's continue on. The audio situation, I've already talked about that. It was really good, but it's a little bit challenging. When I first set it up in order to control the audio, folks suggested something called Soundflower. Turns out Soundflower doesn't work in Big Sur and on the M1. I then tried something called Loopback. That kind of worked. I eventually went back to using a mixer. The world is fine again. But managing your audio within software was a little bit clunky. I just moved around it. Alt-Tab we've talked about. Installing screens we've talked about. iOS apps. Now, this one's not a con because, to be honest, Apple never came out and said, hey, you can run all your iOS apps on your Mac M1, except they kind of did. And look, some of them you can. So if I come in here and we go to LumaFusion, which is my favorite iOS editor, it will not be found. Why? Because it's not a Mac app. We'll go iPhone and iPad apps. So there it is, LumaFusion. I do need to update it. But if we just come in, oh, I can't run it there. We'll just run it because I have it installed. I won't update it here on the fly. But we can run this. And some apps like LumaFusion have been kind of customized and made work on the Mac a little better. Here's LumaFusion over here. Bring it up. So I don't have any project here that I'm creating. I don't really have any video files on here. But yeah, we can come in here. We can make videos here using LumaFusion right here on the Mac. The thing that I thought would be cool is that when I'm doing tutorials on things like GarageBand iOS or iMovie iOS, I'll just be able to install them, the iOS versions, right here on my Mac and run them. Here's the thing. any developer can opt in or opt out of having their iOS apps run on the Mac, which is fine. That's a good thing, yeah, if that's their prerogative. So, but it just means that we can't run those because Apple don't want you running the iOS version of GarageBand as well as the Mac version. Now, there's ways around it. Jade Stars showed on her channel, there's an app, I forget the name, that you can use to actually do it. But again, out of the box, natively, does not run. And again, it's not a big deal for many people. In fact, most people would say, I don't want to do that. I don't want the confusion of having two different versions of GarageBand. But for me, I just had this dream that I could do all of my things just using one device. However, the good thing is that because of Reflector 3, I still can. So it's not a game changer because I can still run any of the apps that I want to over here on my iPad. And if there's anything that I want to show, I can just come in here and whoop. And why can't I see iMovie? iMovie, there you go. I can do tutorials of iMovie. I can do tutorials about GarageBand, and it's all right there because I can reflect it using this. But again, the dream was that we'd have one device that would run all our iPad, all our iPhone, and all of our Mac apps. It didn't quite get realized, for better or worse. Probably for better overall, yeah. And this guy was hoping to. He was really hoping, and she is really pissed off. She really wanted to run her iPhone. She wanted to play Candy Crush on her Mac, and that's why she's looking so brooding there. Right. The final thing I'm going to talk about, and this is one that's just a bit funny. Like, let's just finish on this, is that every time I'm doing something on my Mac, because it is so iOS-like, I'm reaching up and I'm trying to do this and this and this and this. I want a touch screen. Now, I got the Mac Mini anyway. So for those on a laptop, I can only imagine how annoying it is because I'm not used to being able to reach out and touch my screens anyway, but it would be so frustrating for someone. And here's the thing. Apple have come out and said, one moment. Apple have come out and said, we will not make a touchscreen Mac. And you know what? Apple have famously said a lot of things. We will never make a video iPod comes out. We will never do this and that. They say we will never just before they do it, right? So that's the thing to keep in mind there. They say, oh, we're never going to do that, and then they do. So do I think a touchscreen Mac device is on its way? I would hope so. Because here's the thing, my kids in particular, they come onto this, and because it looks so much like you should be able to touch it, they reach out and try to touch it, and they can't do it. So, yeah, that's something that has taken me a while to just not want to keep reaching out and touching the screen, especially on things like GarageBand where I just want to zoom in, I just want to chunk, and it's like, nope, I can't. So for GarageBand in particular, instead of being able to zoom by just reaching up and grabbing the screen, if we bring this up, bring it up over here, so if I want to zoom in on this to sort of do that, I'm like, nope, that's not going to work. I need to come up here. Well, you can't see that because I don't have it shared. There you go. Because I can't do that, I just need to come over here and, I need to stretch it out there. And I need to constantly be doing that. And I'm sure that there's some zoom. I'm sure there's a zoom. I can't even find it here. I'm sure there's some shortcut that I can learn with my keyboard. What is it? Shift Command M is zoom, but what does that do? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I do. I want to be able to reach out and touch. Reach out and touch somebody. Well, something. Righty. Thank you. Thank you to the Metalhead Hippie who has thrown a super chat in here. There you go. 'Cause you're so sexy. Peace. Peace to you, my friend. Yeah, that's what the stream's all about. Yeah, let's continue on. If anyone, we're about to get into the final section here, which is where I'm going to throw it out to you and see, do you have any questions? I haven't been able to keep an eye on the chat. There's been too much to talk about. I've been in full rant mode here, mostly because I wanted you to have all the information. I was watching a video just to get my bearings. I watched a video I did 7 weeks ago, 1 week before I actually owned my first Mac, where I said, hey, maybe I should be the guinea pig. Maybe I should take one for the team so that you don't have to. I've done that. This video is the culmination of me being the guinea pig and taking one for the team. So hopefully it's helped you out. If you have questions or if you have comments, I will jump over here to the, I'll bring it over. I'm getting used to it. I've brought it over here to the screen. I'll be able to answer anything that you have. So we'll jump in and see what folks have got to say. Russ says, that's why I use a PC. I want to touch it. Yeah, I want to touch it. See, and even experienced folks like Tom tries to reach out and touch the screen sometimes. I do it all the time. And again, I'm an old man. I'm like 41, nearly 42 years old, and I want to reach out and touch it. Can you imagine what an 18-year-old that gets a Mac laptop now? Let's say you've been using, like my kids, when they're 18, let's say they've been using iPhones and iPads for a long time, since they were like 4 years old. And then at age 18, they get a Mac and they're like, oh, all I need to do is, wait, what? Why is this not working? You're like, oh no, you've got to use the touch pad. Just pretend that the screen is the pad. And then they're like, why does it scroll the wrong direction? Right? It's going to happen. You know it. Oh, the metalhead hippie. Oh yeah, koalas. Koalas are dicks, right? Koalas. People think koalas are cute and fluffy and fuzzy. As all Australians know, koalas are, they're nasty. They're nasty little feral creatures. Sorry, if you love koalas, more power to you. But yeah, they're nasty. And kangaroos and emus, the other national animals, yeah, we just eat them. They're what we eat, not shrimp. We don't throw shrimp on the barbie. And we do not drink Fosters. Just so you know, just clearing up a few things about Australia. Jade says that Apple have trained us too well. I think so. And that's the weird thing. They've trained us to use touchscreens. They wanted us to use touchscreens, yet on the Mac, they don't want us to. I don't know. I know I'm going on too much about that, but hey, it's fun. Kim, hello to you. Kim was the first one here, by the way. You get the early mark. I do that too, but I've also tried to scroll a book. Yeah, right. Isn't that the weirdest thing? I've done that. I've done that embarrassingly far too many times, where you've got a page of a book and you're trying to tap things or you're trying to scroll things, and then you look around, you're like, did anyone notice that? Did anyone see me trying to scroll the book? And you hope that no one did, and then you move on with your life. Daryl says I use Procreate on the iPad and iPhone. The amount of times I've tried to pinch and zoom on real paper is right? Yeah, exactly. It's like when your pocket buzzes and you think, oh, I've got a text message, and then you realize you're not carrying your phone. Anyone ever get that? Phantom buzzes? It's weird. We are a bit broken. We are a little bit broken. Excuse me. I'll just scroll on down again. If you've got questions, this is your time to shine. If you have any questions or any comments about this, Ricky Neal, awesome stream. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Emobot 9000. This channel changed my life. Well, that's cool. Thank you. And if this channel also changed your life, or even if you just got some value or had some fun listening to an old man rant and yelling at clouds and telling kids to get off his lawn, then yeah, hit the like button. If it's your first time here, consider subscribing. We do these sort of live shows about 4 or 5 times a week, as well as a bunch of pre-recorded shows and videos and tutorials as well. Gary Hubbs says, I was offended when my then sophisticated macOS started to look like my then primitive iOS. Yeah, isn't it funny? I'll talk about that in a sec. Isn't it funny that, where the macOS and the iOS worlds sort of came together, and for the longest time, everyone thought iOS is going to end up looking just like macOS. In fact, if you watch the very first iPhone video, I've watched it a bunch of times, Steve Jobs is up there and he's saying, and the new iPhone runs Mac OS, or whatever he said, runs a Macintosh operating system. So the very first iPhone was like, hey, you got a Mac in your pocket. And now the very latest Mac is, hey, you got an iPad in your desktop. It's like, it's full circle. It's like, yeah, it's a bit strange. Anyway. Brian says, have you found 8 gigs of RAM enough for most of your projects? Thanks. Really great question. And I kind of buried the lead. I sort of answered this by saying, it's running smooth. It's smooth. It's buttery smooth. So for me, yes. And keep in mind that I don't video edit, apart from the bit of LumaFusion that I showed you there, and I've tried out iMovie a little bit. Apart from that, I do all my video editing actually on my iPhone, on LumaFusion, believe it or not. So I just find that convenient because I've always got my phone with me. But some of so I haven't pushed it. So I'm not using Premiere Pro, I'm not using Final Cut, I'm not using Logic and running, 20, 30, 40, 50 tracks and a bunch of plugins and stuff. So, but for the multitasking, so if you're a day-to-day user just creating in GarageBand, creating in iMovie, even creating in Logic, I've seen a bunch of videos where people have got the exact same one that I have, the base level Mac Mini, and they've just pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and it just says, please, sir, I want some more. And it just keeps going and going. And I think that that's pretty cool. I was super skeptical. One of the biggest criticisms I had going in was 8 gigabytes is not enough. I was instantly like, I've got to get the 16 gigabyte version. And then I thought, no, you know what? Because I'm the guinea pig, because I'm the canary in the coal mine, I'm going to get the absolute base model and see how it goes. And to date, it's gone well. You'll have to keep tuning in because the next month will be the big test because I'm I'm now at the point where it's my daily driver. So I turned my PC on yesterday and used it, and I was like, this feels like I'm going back. This feels like I'm going backwards. So I've definitely gone from using the Mac just for the streams and to get used to it and to test out GarageBand to my Mac is now my daily driver. When I'm sitting here in the studio, I'm on the Mac. So that probably answers most of that question. But hang around if you're on the fence, hang around for the next month because it's really going to be pivotal to see when I start doing all my design work, when I start doing all my music and my video work, when I start doing every single live stream on this Mac. I'll probably come across some more challenges and I'll probably find some more things that I really like. And I'll probably come back and do a 12-week later. So this is the 6 weeks later. This is the way I like to do reviews. I'm not talking benchmarks. You might have noticed I haven't mentioned benchmarks. I haven't mentioned comparing it to the speed or to anything like that. In day-to-day real-world use, does it do what I need it to do? And the answer so far, after the update with the display and the audio stuff, after the update, the answer has been a resounding yes. Still a pup. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, those drop bears. The drop bears are like a distant cousin of the koala. Well, vicious animals, the drop bear. Yeah, right. That's not a knife. That's a knife. Yeah, right. Albatross says change iPad use M1 Mini. Use Forever Logic best way. There you go. There you go. Yeah, exactly. It's prawns. It's not shrimp. It's prawns. Throw some prawns, and we don't barbecue them. How do we cook prawns here? You normally just boil them and then rip the heads off and pull the guts out. That's the way you eat prawns. Ugh. Hello, Dan. Hello, Danny. Hope you're doing well. We'll see if we have any other questions. Amaracia says, how has music production been on the Mac compared to iOS? Is there anything that's different, or is it simply a different way of doing some of the same things? Good question. Very good question. So the short version is it's different. So it is definitely, there's more things you can do on the Mac, right? So if we bring it up, I'll get my screen share happening here again. There's our dude. He knows where it's at. So if we get our screen here, there's different things you can do. Like I said, I'm so used to a touch screen on my iPhone and iPad that I found it way clunkier producing music. I have found that some things are easier. So for instance, coming here and doing MIDI note, again, I was about to reach up to the screen. MIDI note editing, once you work out how to zoom and how to move it around, this sort of stuff's actually a bit easier because you can actually come in here and you can move things and get a lot more precision. If you've got big chunky fingers like me and you want to move things around, that sort of thing's easier. So those really precise moves, the mouse and keyboard's kind of better for. In terms of actual functionality, in GarageBand and in Logic, which I haven't tried yet, there is a lot more there that you can use. And it really depends on the type of music production you do. There hasn't been a single feature that I've actually used on the Mac that I can't do on my iPhone or iPad and probably do quicker. So for me, it's been a bit different because I tend to rely heavily on my touchscreen, and because I've been using iPad and iPhone to produce music for 5 years, and I basically haven't used my PC in all that time. I've just been using the iOS devices. It's been a bit of a jump for me, to be honest. Let's come on down. Sorry, I'll have to jump through these because we've only got 7 minutes left. Does the toilet flush anti-clockwise? It does, except our toilets aren't full of water, so you never really notice. First time I went to America, I said I have to hurry up and then I'll say this. First time I went to America, I was freaked out by the fact that your toilet bowls are full of water. I was like, why do you need all this water? Who wants to be that close to their business? Anyway, there you go. Oh, Danny's got your UI22C. Watch out. Here he comes. Danny's going to start producing. The phantom pocket buzz was a bit odd, yeah. Tom, question. If you had to do a do-over, would you still get a Mini over a MacBook? I think once stuff is plugged in, you wouldn't want to move it much anyway, but curious to hear. I thought about this just last night, actually. I was thinking about what way would I go, because I was re-listening to my original reviews and thoughts on the Mac Mini and the MacBook. I would still probably go the Mac Mini for my purposes. Again, because most of my stuff I do is right here. And then when I want to go mobile, I want to reach for one of these. So I don't really see, and especially now that I've got the iPad as well, so I use an iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard. If I'm going to go and sit at a cafe, I'm going to take my iPad Pro. I'm not going to take my MacBook, even if I had a MacBook. So it really depends on your use case. If you had one device and you say didn't have a newer iPad and you wanted to get one thing to do everything, I think a MacBook Air with the M1 would be the way I'd go. So that's my short version with that. Question from Film in Focus. Have you noticed any perceivable difference in audio quality with M1 versus iOS GarageBand? No, to be honest. I have my GarageBand on my iPhone set to 44.1 kilohertz 24-bit audio, and I plug in whatever device I'm using. On my Mac, 24-bit 44.1 kilohertz. So it's really more about the devices I'm using and plugging in. But in terms of the actual audio playback engine, the analog to digital converters, that sort of thing, virtually no difference. It's probably the exact same audio chip that's running on your iPhone and iPad and on that one. Emobot says, seriously, if it wasn't for you, I would never have known you could create music on my phone. Yeah, and that's a cool thing. So I know a lot of people have said that. They're like, I thought I had to like get a whole studio on a PC or a Mac or whatever, but I can just do it all on my phone. We've got more koala talk, which we'll have to jump over there. G. Loss says, this has been very informative since I'm in the process of deciding between a PC and a Mac. Thank you. And that's what I hope. Again, I'm not going to definitively say, yes, you do this, yes, you do that. I'm just going to lay it all out there. It's your decision. My opinion and my experience has been, it's been working well, and I would recommend it. But it's not been without its headaches. It's not been without its steep learning curve. And I've gotten frustrated. There have been days where I've wanted to throw it out the window. I'm going to be super, super honest. But at the end of the day, it's worked out well. And I think longer term, I think in the future, I'll be very glad that I did it. There you go. Coldacre says, I had 25 tracks running in Logic the other day, sucking about 6 gigabytes of RAM. So there you go. That's a good thing to know. So and I would say that if you're going to run Logic and if you're recording with a lot of tracks, a lot of plugins, and a lot of different things going on, then I would do that. Sal the producer says, I want a mini one, just felt the same with 8 gigs. Yeah, exactly. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, is 8 gigs going to be enough? I think it is. How do you synchronize your footage between devices? I don't really synchronize. I don't really synchronize. I use Audio Share to send my stuff between my different devices because it has Wi-Fi drive. Syncing up audio and video is a different and longer story that we probably don't have time to go into right now. But thank you, Sion, and thanks for being here, one of our wonderful moderators. I know I'm going to miss a bunch of stuff. Sal says, excited to see the content with the new Mini. Yeah, so check out the playlist. I'll probably finish on this because I know I've got a heap of other questions here, and I apologize that we're not going to have time. It just means that I'll have to return and do another Mac-related show because it seems it's something that folks want to hear more about. So maybe we'll do a follow-up in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, if you do want to see more, if you want to go back in time and see my thought process, the original reviews, my very first impressions, I've got a video where I literally plugged it in and did my first sort of unboxing and setup, as well as some of the trials and tribulations along the way. There is a playlist linked. It's in the chat here. It's linked down below in the description. You can jump over to there now and check out all of those videos and catch up on the story so far, and then subscribe to the channel because every day I'm using it, I'm learning something new, and I'll pass on any of those tips and I'll continue to give you my advice. And who knows, in 2 weeks' time, something may have gone horribly wrong. I hope not, but it may have changed. But no, the latest version of Mac Big Sur, using the M1 Mini, even the absolute base model, has been working very well. And my overall verdict is, if you're in the market for a new computer, you got $1,000, I think the Mac M1 is the best bang for buck in terms of, especially if you're an iPad and an iPhone user, the integration with iOS, the fact that it's all the same ecosystem. Yes, it frustrates me sometimes, but on the whole, been working out well. If you're here live and you're watching this show, jump over to Jade Star's channel now. She's doing her How To App show. And then after Jade, we've got Joey Helpish with How To Song. Yes, you get a whole plethora of entertainment here. So there is Jade's show. She's looking at the Bleece Granulizer. Sounds very cool. And you've got the link there. So jump over to Jade's channel, check that one out. But for now, you can hear the voices going. The ranting must stop. So thank you for being here. Again, check out all the links down below. Hit the like button if you had some fun and got some valuable information here today. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already and you dig this kind of content. And as I say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and keep creating. Thanks, folks. Rock on.